President of Saharanpur Obstetric and Gynae Society. She was Scientific Secretary SOGS 2003. She has attended several scientific seminars as a panelist and expert consultant. She was a panelist for various forums on discussion of various social issues as well. And she has presented papers in RCOG conferences, FOXY, SGI conferences, and many more. She is currently a trained surgeon and consultant in Obs Gynae, especially a specialist in laparoscopy surgery infertility treatment. So, Dr. Newton, welcome and over to you.
Thank you, Khushbu. I think we have already, we are a bit delayed, so we'll just start immediately. Warm and hearty welcome to Dr. Jaya Chaturvedi. We welcome you, ma'am, and it's such a pleasure renewing our acquaintance back. And Saharanpur has always been very closely connected to earlier with to you with when you were in Jolly Grant, and now obviously when you are in AIIMS. Very hearty welcome to you. And as we all know, that today the topic of our discussion is latest trends in the management of uterine fibroids. And uterine fibroids is not an unknown word to each one of us. I think in our day-to-day clinical practice, that is the commonest benign tumor that we are seeing. And it appears in the every category, every age group, right? It may be from an adolescent girl to an elderly lady. Every category is not having different percentages of fibroid, but this is something that is present in all age groups. So this is the commonest benign tumor that we are facing, and this is and it gives a unique combination of clinical presentations, maybe for an infertility case, maybe in case of recurrent pregnancy loss, maybe in cases of abnormal uterine bleeding, maybe in cases of pressure symptoms because of their size. So this is something that we are dealing day in and day out, and it's high time that we we look at it in a fresher way with the latest trends that are being introduced. So I will ask our dear secretary, Dr. Nanita Chandra, to read the CV of Dr. Jaya ma'am, and let's start our clinical, the scientific meet. Dr. Nanita, please.
All evening.
डॉक्टर ननीता,
डॉक्टर ननीता, आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट कीजिए प्लीज. हाँ, yes ma'am. Now you can say.
ठीक है. Good evening all. I welcome you in today's webinar. We have Dr. Jaya Chaturvedi with us, and we will talk about the latest trend in the management of uterine fibroid. Dr. Jaya Chaturvedi, she did her MBBS and MS from GR Medical College, Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. She is former professor and HOD in Obs Gynae Department of Himalayan Institute of Medical Sciences, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. She is a recipient of various awards such as Jagdeshwari Award of FOXY, Uttaranchal State Felicitation 2011, Nari Ratna Award 2017, and ET Healthward Award 2018. She has also actively participated in various projects under RDI in MCH Care, Sexual and Reproductive Health funded by SIDA, GOI, WHO, and PFI. She has also published and presented 47 papers in various journals and conferences. She is the Vice President of Uttaranchal Chapter of Obs and Gynae Society since 2002 and FOXY Dehradun and branch since 1999. She is a MBBS and MS examiner of various universities, and she's a scientific advisory member of the ICMR, and she is also an expert in the UPSC and ESIS. So I welcome you, ma'am. Over to Jaya, ma'am. Kindly deliver your talk.
Thank you, Dr. Nanita, for the kind words about my CV, and Dr. Nutan to welcome me. So I am grateful to the Saharanpur OB Gynae Society to give me opportunity, also Acumentis, to give me opportunity to be again in front of you all after so long time. Maybe it is just virtual. साथ में नहीं मिल पा रहे हैं आमने सामने, but there is no problem. Now the technology is so advanced that we are able to see everybody sitting at our homes. So I am really grateful to the president of society, Dr. Nutan Upadhyay, to contact me and to invite me for this webinar. Grateful to Dr. Secretary, Dr. Nanita Chandra, and today as moderator, Dr. Nutan will moderate the panel discussion, and our moderators are Dr. Renu, Dr. Aishwarya, Dr. Neelam. I am really thankful to you all to join me in this webinar. And also so many seniors and colleagues are seen on the screen. And also Dr. Suman Sethi from Dehradun OB-GYN Society, and many persons from Dehradun OB-GYN Society also joined us. Suman madam is very senior gynecologist of Dehradun, and really I admire her a lot. She is the backbone for my transformations here in Dolly Grant and Dehradun. So I really welcome madam to you, and your words will have a lot of meaning for me. So I am going to start my talk on the recent trends of fibroid. I must share my screen first. Okay, are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see?
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
yeah.
see you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So it is such a thing, the fibroid. Many women are coming to us with a small fibroid, big fibroid. Many doctors are consulting each other regarding the management, and the confusion is continuously going on. Many treatments which were available before now becoming obsolete now. New trends are coming. So it is very, very important to discuss the latest trend in the management. So I will start with the definition. They are benign monoclonal tumors. Monoclonal means they are arising from one fibroid is arising from one muscle fiber only. So these are monoclonal tumors of smooth muscle cells of the myometrium, and they contain large aggregation of extracellular matrix. This is also very important thing, which is composed of collagen, elastin, fibronectin, and proteoglycan. So the risk factors are race, age, genetic factors, early menarche, parity, caffeine and alcohol intake, and other factors like obesity and hypertension all play a very important role as the risk factor. First degree relatives are 2.5 times at increased risk. Most fibroids do not increase during pregnancy. जैसा हम सोचते हैं, they are not. Rapid uterine growth अगर दिखती है, and which is not very well defined, almost never indicate that it is sarcoma. It is degenerative changes or malignancy, or sarcoma अलग से हो सकता है, but not sarcoma in the fibroid in premenopausal patients. Genetics में अगर जाएं तो 40% fibroids are due to chromosomal abnormalities, in which translocation of chromosome 12 and 14, deletion of chromosome 7, trisomy of chromosome 12 is the means causation. Collagen type 1 and type 3 are seen abundant in the disarray, which is a genetic testing. And genetic differences are there in fibroid and leiomyosarcoma. Means continuously I am saying leiomyosarcoma is totally different from the fibroid. It is not resulting from the malignant degeneration of fibroid. One more study recently in 2018 was there that frequent milk or soya bean consumption is recently viewed as independent risk factor for the development of fibroid, and frequent oral contraceptive use. Frequent means एक बार यूज किया फिर बंद कर दिया. बहुत सी लेडीज ऐसा करती हैं कि हस्बैंड उनके आर्मी वगैरह में है, when they come they start taking the medication and then they stop. So frequent oral contraceptive use are associated with a high risk of uterine leiomyomata. As far as prevalence is concerned, nearly 20 to 30% Indian women in reproductive age group have fibroid uterus, and at any given time, nearly 15 to 25 million Indian women have myoma uterus. And when we see the prevalence according to the age, it is seen that 41 to 55 years of age is the peak time to see maximum myoma cases. When we go to the FIGO classification of heavy menstrual bleeding, now हमारे जो पुराने words थे menorrhagia, metrorrhagia, menometrorrhagia, they are obsolete. We are using a term called heavy menstrual bleeding. And heavy menstrual bleeding, the causes are coined as palm coin causes, या palm coin classification. And leiomyoma is one part of the palm. P means polyp, A means adenomyosis, L means leiomyoma, and M means malignancy and hyperplasia. Similarly, coin is coagulopathy, ovulatory dysfunction, endometrial causes, iatrogenic causes, and not otherwise classified. So, in this FIGO classification, palm coin classification, the fibroids are graded from 0 to 8, and 0, 1, and 2 are submucous fibroids, and rest 2 to 5 are intramural fibroid. जो 6 number का है, it is subserous but not pedunculated. 7 is pedunculated, and 8 is others like cervical fibroid or parasitic fibroid. So this is the classification we are following nowadays. This is one more classification, step W classification, in which S means size, T means topography, E means extension, E means penetration, and W is for the lateral wall extension. So this step W classification is for the eligibility of the fibroid for the hysteroscopic resection or removal. So this is not in the daily use. But if the person is to be taken for the hysteroscopic decision, this classification is to be used. Similarly, European Society classification is also for those fibroids which are submucous and hysteroscopically to be dealt. So, hysteroscopically dealing of the fibroid requires these classification, step W and ESG classification, and according to these, we should jump for the management. Then comes the symptoms. As I said, heavy menstrual bleeding is the word used nowadays. Other जो symptoms हैं, they are pelvic pain, dysmenorrhea, anemia occurs because of the heavy menstrual bleed, and infertility, and because of the size of the myoma, site of the myoma, bladder and bowel symptoms will occur. So I am not going to discuss about all these symptoms in detail. We will not waste time in this. We will just take heavy menstrual bleeding means it is usually जो पुराना term था menorrhagia during periods. अगर submucous fibroid है, it can cause intermenstrual bleeding like that. So infertility, the causes of infertility by uterine fibroid is fibroid causes infertility by obstructing the fallopian tubes, by impairing the gamete transport, by distorting the endometrial cavity, by creating abnormal endometrial receptivity, and by altering the endometrial environment or development. So in patients with the fibroid with infertility, we should evaluate other causes of male and female infertility and evaluate the endometrial cavity and fallopian tube by the investigations. Submucosal fibroids, definitely those who are hanging in the cavity affect the fertility rate, and intramural fibroids slightly affects the fertility rate, and subserous fibroids never affect the fertility rate. And here I want to say intramural fibroid adversely affect the IVF by altering myometrial contraction during embryo transfer, decreasing endometrial and subendometrial blood flow due to shunting towards fibroid. 2-3 words about the effect of fibroid on pregnancy. In pregnancy, fibroids can cause spontaneous miscarriage, preterm labor, PPROM, IUGR, malpresentation, PPH, etc. And there is increased risk of rupture of myomectomy scar in the 3rd trimester. And to avoid this risk of rupture, or to decrease this risk of rupture, multi-layered closure of myometrium and limited use of electrocautery during surgery is suggested. Another word about the effect of pregnancy on fibroid. Pregnancy has variable, unpredictable effect on fibroid growth, and it is seen that greatest increase of the fibroid in before 10th week of gestation. After that, during pregnancy, fibroid कभी बड़ा नहीं होता, it becomes flattened. तो उसका एक means one dimension is increased, but another dimension is reduced because of the flattening. And degeneration, which occurs during pregnancy, which causes severe pain, which occurs because of the necrobiosis, we all know is called red degeneration of fibroid. And the management of red degeneration of fibroid is only and only conservative management by painkillers, etc. So evaluation includes proper history of the patient, then TVS and TAS ultrasound, abdominal and vaginal ultrasounds to confirm diagnosis and to locate the fibroid are to be done. HSG, sonosalpingography and hysteroscopy are used according to the situation. Endometrial biopsy according to the endometrial thickness which is observed in ultrasound. And if we are unable to locate the fibroid properly, or we are deciding for the surgery, or we are having confusion in the diagnosis, then we should go for the MRI. So MRI is indicated for the uncertain location after ultrasound to identify small submucosal leiomyometas, also to differentiate fibroid from other adnexal pathology, and to precise the fibroid mapping and characterization for multiple fibroid. So the treatment options which are available with us are surgical, non-surgical and medical treatment. Surgical treatment, दो ही नाम आते हैं, one is hysterectomy, another is myomectomy. Non-surgical, uterine artery embolization and magnetic resonance guided focused ultrasound energy. Medical management includes NSAIDs, antifibrinolytics, these are non-hormonal, then GnRH analog, progestins, danazol, combined oral contraceptive pills, and SPRM means progesterone receptor modulators. So is it necessary to remove fibroids in all patients with infertility or recurrent pregnancy loss? No. Indications for myomectomy in infertile patients are submucosal fibroid, for which those two STEP W classification and European Society classification are developed. Then symptomatic fibroid definitely needs removal or treatment. Multiple failed cycles of ART with intramural fibroid requires treatment. In the presence of recurrent pregnancy loss, presence of fibroid is not 100% responsible for the recurrent pregnancy loss. So we should rule out all the causes of recurrent pregnancy loss, and after that we will jump on to the conclusion that this fibroid is responsible and it requires myomectomy. Myomectomy can be done by open route, by laparoscopic route abdominally, and during cesarean it can be done. Robotic also, we are having here robotic means robo here, so robotic myomectomy can also be done. Then for the submucosal myomas, hysteroscopic myomectomy, and if it is hanging in the vagina, then vaginal myomectomy can be performed. I am not going in detail of the myomectomy, just 2-3 words. How to reduce blood loss during myomectomy. Before operation, we should give patient GnRH analog for 2-3 months to reduce the volume and to reduce the vascularity. Then surgery should be done in immediate post-menstrual period. During operation, the mechanical things which are used to reduce blood loss are tourniquet and permanent ligation of the uterine arteries. And The medical things which can be used to reduce blood loss are epinephrine and vasopressin, intramyocardial injection. Somebody is speaking, please mute. So these epinephrine and vasopressin are contraindicated in hypertension, epilepsy, migraine, asthma, heart failure, and nephritis. And most important thing is, during myomectomy, we require very good anesthetist with us who can give controlled hypotensive anesthesia. That is very important. Limitations of surgical and non-surgical methods are there. Hysterectomy mein, there is complete loss of fertility. Surgical morbidity is there. Myomectomy, fibroid recurrence chance are there. UAE means embolization, fibroid recurrence, pain, possibility of severe complications. So all these things are there. MRG FUS is having high cost. So we are continuously in search of the methods which are suitable for that particular patient. Non-surgical management, surgical management, I told you, is myomectomy. The ultimate thing is hysterectomy. But non-surgical management, which is not gaining popularity, but which is available, and we are having interventional radiologist here, so we can do uterine artery embolization. So uterine artery embolization is one management. Uterine artery occlusion, मैंने इसे green इसलिए किया है कि it is not used nowadays because better management is available with the uterine artery embolization and high intensity focused ultrasound. So what is uterine artery embolization? It is the effective treatment for selected women with uterine fibroid, and the main indication is symptomatic fibroid and the patient is having contraindication for surgery. तो अगर सर्जरी नहीं करवा सकती है, बड़े सिम्टोमेटिक फाइब्रॉइड है, then we should go for the uterine artery embolization, and medical भी नहीं लेना चाहती है. UAE contraindications are current or recurrent infection in the genital tract, serious doubt about the diagnosis. If it is there, then we should not go for the embolization, because अगर diagnosis ही confirm नहीं है तो किस चीज को block करेंगे. Then asymptomatic fibroid should not be touched by UAE. Pregnancy is contraindication. When patient refuses hysterectomy under any circumstances, because these patients, whatever the method we are using, maybe these patients surgical method, and with non-surgical methods patient can land up in hysterectomy. So if she is not giving consent, we should not attempt such things. In infertility patients, if large fibroids are there, the help which we are getting with the embolization are that it reduces the fibroid volume and it improves the chances of successful pregnancy. But adverse effects are there, like reduced placental blood supply and increased risk of uterine rupture during pregnancy because of the less vascularity. And that is why it is said that if the patient of infertility wants treatment, myomectomy is the best treatment with the previous medical treatment for short term. UAE is not indicated in the infertility or ऐसी patients who wants to conceive just because of these adverse effect. But still some cases are there, case reports are there where it is tried and it is seen that it improves the chances of successful pregnancy also. So it is very controversial. So the procedure is percutaneous cannulation of the femoral artery under fluoroscopic guidance is to be done, and embolization of the uterine artery by injecting embolizing agent until occlusion or slow flow is documented. This procedure takes 30 to 90 minutes and cost जो यहाँ लग जाती है वो around 30,000. So this is uterine artery embolization, which is done by the embolizing agents like foam particles, spores, gel foam, NPCA, hystericryl glue. Embolization effect, you can see myoma kitna vascular hai, and this myoma is with the decreased vascularity and decreased volume. So the complications are immediate groin hematoma, arterial thrombosis, pseudoaneurysm formation, contrast, media reactions can occur, uterine artery spasm, non-specific embolization, and patient can have permanent amenorrhea. And because permanent amenorrhea occurs, then means that is why it is not very much recommended in the infertility patients. Then early complications within 30 days are seen as post-embolization syndrome, which is consisting of fever, malaise, pain and nausea. Rarely UTI भी देखा गया है, persistent and DVT. Late complications beyond 30 days are vaginal discharge, fibroid expulsion and impaction, amenorrhea, endometritis, sexual dysfunctions, which is very rare. So these are the complication which can occur with the embolization, not in all cases. So outcome of UAE is successful in controlling menorrhagia in 85 to 95% of cases. Volume reduction is seen in 40 to 60%, and complications may lead to hysterectomy in 2.9% of cases. And this 2.9%, when the patient is not ready, we should not attempt UAE. Uterine artery occlusion is done by the temporary transvaginal temporary transvaginal uterine artery occlusion is done under Doppler guidance, and clamps are removed after 6 hours, and occlusion is confirmed by cessation of the Doppler signals. But this is not done by anybody. मैंने कभी देखा नहीं है. 80% women have only 24% shrinkage in 5 months time. So results are also not good. Then a very important non-surgical method which is gaining popularity in high class society, that is MR guided focused ultrasound. The indications are patients not willing for surgery, young patients having symptomatic fibroids and fibroids causing infertility. Limitations are there like scarring of abdomen, fibroid size if it is more than 10 centimeter, बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट नहीं आता है. यूट्राइन मैलिग्नेंसी को रूल आउट करना है, PID रूल आउट करना है, प्रेगनेंसी रूल आउट करना है. फाइब्रॉइड एट a depth more than 14 centimeter है, then the ultrasound will not go there. Close proximity of fibroid to lumbar plexus, then also we cannot give MRG FUS. In this, वैसे HIFU is an organ sparing non-invasive thermoablative procedure which is applied transcutaneously, and it is uterus conserving and painless method. Procedure, little bit description about the procedure is, the procedure is performed with the woman lying on her stomach in an MRI scanner for 3 hours under conscious sedation. An ultrasound probe is located under the abdomen and uterus, and a water bath is used to maximize acoustic contact between the skin and ultrasound transducer. जैसे जेली यूज करते हैं उसी तरह से अल्ट्रासाउंड की उसके लिए एक वाटर बाथ यूज करते हैं. Here principles, here the fibroid is gradually heated under continuous MRI monitoring in small focused stages. A high intensity focused ultrasound pulse with a several second period, मतलब बीच बीच में रोकते हुए डालते हैं, generated by the piezoelectric ultrasound transducer, and the heat raises the temperature rapidly between 60 degree to 95 degree to achieve complete denaturation of the localized tumor. The complications are peri-interventional pain, skin burns, slight inflammation of the subcutaneous fat tissue and of abdominal muscles, paresthesia and DVT of the legs. DVT is very rare complication. Intestinal lesions or intestinal perforation, extremely rare. Discharge of tissue means जो fibroid degenerate हुआ है, that will come out, and sometimes the patients will complain of worsening menorrhagia for some time. Outcome at 6 months post procedure, symptomatic improvement is seen in 80% of cases, and reduction of fibroid size is only moderate, only 13%. तो इसका कॉस्ट पड़ जाता है 1 लाख से 1.5 लाख के बीच में. उतने पैसे में if we are getting the fibroid size reduction only 13%, then it is not a good choice in the developing country like us. So now I will jump to medical methods. more frequently used in following situations: perimenopausal women whose problems were likely to resolve with the onset of menopause, in women not suitable for surgery, in some women receiving fertility treatment. Preoperatively, it is used to reduce size of fibroids, to reduce the menstrual bleeding, to raise the hemoglobin level. So these are the indications of the medical method. Medical methods, as I said, they can be non-hormonal and hormonal. Non-hormonal are NSAIDs and antifibrinolytics, and hormonal are OCP, progestins, danazol, gestinon, GnRH analog, GnRH antagonists. SERM means estrogen receptor modulator, progesterone receptor modulators, and antiprogestins. So one by one, I am going to discuss in very short all these initial hormonal and non-hormonal methods, and then the recent thing, that is sperm. So non-hormonal is NSAID, just the painkillers which we are using. Usually they decreases dysmenorrhea. There are no studies which shows improvement in dysmenorrhea due to leiomyoma. Dysmenorrhea में improvement होता है, पर leiomyoma से जो dysmenorrhea है उसमें improvement बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं मिला है. So NSAIDs are for the temporary relief. Antifibrinolytic like tranexamic acid we are using off and on daily basis पर use कर रहे हैं सब patients में. This is decreasing the menstrual blood loss and perioperative myomectomy. A systematic review also showed this thing, that tranexamic acid is reducing the blood loss. But tranexamic acid के साथ भी एक caution है, that necrosis and infarcts are reported in the long-term use of the tranexamic acid. 2007 की एक स्टडी है. तो फाइब्रॉइड में degenerations are noted with the long-term use or irrational use of tranexamic acid. This is very important finding. Limitations of medical therapy are there, like oral progestins and like norethistron जो हम लोग शुरू से use करते आ रहे हैं. They are causing weight gain, acne, means all the progesterone related symptoms. Then injectable progestins, they are also showing same symptoms, and here loss of bone mineral density is also observed with the injectable progestins. COCs means combined oral contraceptive pills के साथ breakthrough bleeding मिली है, and they are really, because they are having effect on the liver, etc. So they are not safe for the long-term use and not on all the population. Fibroids overexpress estrogen and progesterone both receptors. यहाँ यूट्रस का डायग्राम में there is a fibroid, and fibroid का ये देखिए लिखा हुआ है, it increases the cellular proliferation and extracellular matrix, which I said in the beginning of my lecture. So fibroid के जो receptors हैं, estrogen and progesterone receptors, they both increases the cellular proliferation and extracellular matrix deposit. And एंड्रोस्टेनेडियन जो कि फैट टिश्यू में है, एरोमेटेज से स्ट्रोन में, स्ट्रियोल में कन्वर्ट हो रहा है, एस्ट्रोजन रिसेप्टर्स को स्टिमुलेट कर रहा है. दीज एस्ट्रोजन रिसेप्टर्स अल्टीमेटली दे आर stimulating the progesterone receptors, and progesterone receptors are causing lot of problem in the cellular level, which I will discuss later on. So fibroids which are having both the receptors and both estrogen and progesterone, because of these receptors, may promote their growth. This is the main thing which we want to highlight here. Hormonal treatment can also induce endometrial atrophy. तो एक तरफ तो ये फाइब्रॉइड की ग्रोथ बढ़ा सकते हैं estrogen and progesterone, but similar time endometrial atrophy कर रहे हैं. Endometrial atrophy के कारण हमें लगता है कि ये इफेक्ट आ रहा है ट्रीटमेंट का, क्योंकि पेशेंट का जो मेन कंप्लेंट है दैट इज हैवी मेंस्ट्रुअल ब्लीडिंग लाइक मेनोरेजिया, मेट्रोरेजिया, दैट विल डेफिनेटली रिड्यूस. So for some time we will think that the patient is responding with the treatment, but actually she is having growth of the fibroid inside because of the receptors for the estrogen and progesterone both by this hormonal treatment. So traditionally the dominant thought was, हम शुरू से ही पढ़ते आए थे कि हाइपर एस्ट्रोजेनिक कंडीशन क्या क्या होती हैं, एंडोमेट्रियोसिस, then adenomyosis, then fibroids, myoma, then breast condition. So these are these fibroid growths are fueled by estrogen, and that is why anti-estrogen treatment like GnRH came in picture. But the recent thing which is discovered that progesterone and progesterone receptors are required for the cellular proliferation and fibroid growth. And fibroid, definitely they express elevated levels of both types of progesterone receptors, progesterone A, receptor A, and progesterone B, which I showed you in the previous picture. Progesterone and its receptors therefore represent potential targets for increasing the uterine fibroid growth. So this is the main bottom line, that progesterone and its receptors are nowadays used for the inhibition of the uterine fibroid growth. Progestins, the old ones, when we see all these things, तो COC के तो लिए मैंने बताया कि COC should not be used because they are containing estrogen and progesterone, and they can increase the size of fibroid. Progesterone only pills can be given orally, injectably, DMPA और intrauterine system में बहुत बातें हो चुकी हैं Mirena वगैरह के बारे में, और Mirena etc. They are really helpful in reducing the bleeding, but it is seen that outcome of treatment with progesterone only pill in women with fibroid uterus is inconclusive, and a small observational study reported a reduction in menstrual blood loss and uterine and the fibroid volume after 6 months of the treatment with DMPA. So they are really effective, but not so much. LNG-IUS is definitely effective treatment for heavy menstrual bleeding. In fibroid also, it is really effective, reduces menstrual blood loss by inducing the endometrial atrophy, increases the HB, relieves the symptoms, and conflicting results on reduction in uterine volume and fibroid volume are there with the LNG-IUS. मतलब volume कम हुआ कि नहीं fibroid का या uterus का, this is really conflicting with LNG-IUS, but HMB के लिए, heavy menstrual bleeding के लिए, it is a good thing.
कहाँ और रावत से? अच्छा, तो
review in the few trials which compared the COC treatment group and LNG-IUS says that LNG-IUS means Mirena is more effective than combined oral contraceptive pills in reducing menstrual blood loss and improving hemoglobin level and reduce number of menstrual lost days. A few words about the danazol. It is a synthetic steroid with androgen and anti-estrogen and anti-progesterone activity, which reduces the fibroid volume. It reduces the vascularity of the uterine artery, and it causes the vascular effect to reduce the size of the uterus volume and fibroid size. But because of the side effects, it is not used in endometriosis now, and in fibroid treatment also it is not shown good results. Cochrane 2011 trial shows that no reliable evidence is available regarding the benefits of danazol for treating uterine fibroids. So danazol is also not used. Then gestinon कभी available ही नहीं हुआ हम लोगों को, but इसके बारे में भी यही है, doses are 2.5 3 times weekly for 6 months. This is also causing mild androgenicity weight gain like danazol. So it can be used for contraceptive benefits, but it is not very much used for the treatment of myoma. Then comes the drugs which we all are using in the infertility patients when the patient is waiting for the myomectomy, or if the myoma is small, we are just jumping for the treatment after giving GnRH analogs. So GnRH analogs are acting as the analogs on hypothalamus pituitary axis, and they blocks the initially what agonist or analogs, what they do is they initially do the flare response, क्योंकि ये उन रिसेप्टर्स से compete करते हैं, so they initially shows हर चीज इंक्रीज हो रही है. पेशेंट आएगा कि अरे जी एक हमको दिया है आपने डोज, इससे तो हमें कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ. Reverse is seen. So first dose is showing flare response, but multiple doses causing down regulation. The analogs which are available are बहुत सारे हैं, but हम लोग जिससे परिचित हैं, they are decapeptyl and leuprolide. And decapeptyl is also the loading is cumbersome. So everybody, I think, is now switched on to leuprolide. So leuprolide is used as the analog everywhere. It is approved by FDA in 1995 for pre-op management of uterine fibroids. It induces a menopausal state with the low estrogen levels, and it cannot be used orally, delivered by parenteral routes like subcutaneous or intramuscular or nasal spray form. Effects: it decreases the size of fibroid by 36% after 12 weeks of treatment, improves symptoms, causes amenorrhea in the patients, restores hemoglobin level at it. The benefit is it changes the route of hysterectomy or myomectomy. अगर बहुत बड़ा मायोमा था, आपने GnRH एनालॉग दिया, तो उसको अगर हमें इस रूट से लेना था, तो वो रूट मिनिमल इन्वेजिव सर्जरी में आ गया. So it changes the route. So it is very effective. Adverse effects of GnRH analog, as we all know, are on the reduction, means it causes reduction in bone mineral density. 1% bone mineral density कम हो जाती है after 6 months of GnRH analog treatment. Patient will develop the menopausal-like symptoms. Not permanent. जैसे ही treatment बंद करेंगे, it will return to pre-treatment level, and the cost is more. Everybody cannot afford it, and recurrence is there as smaller fibroids are missed during surgery. तो अगर हमने GnRH देके फिर मायोमेक्टमी कर दी और उसमें छोटे फाइब्रॉइड मिस हो गए, तो वो फिर रिकर कर जाएंगे. एंड इट द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग as pre-operative GnRH analog is it renders surgical planes difficult, making enucleation very difficult. तो सर्जरी से पहले सर्जिकल प्लेन्स को ये प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर देता है टू डिफरेंशिएट. दिस इज द मेन प्रॉब्लम ऑफ GnRH analog. But pre-operative we are giving to reduce uterine volume and fibroid volume. During surgery, it reduces the blood loss and decreases complication rate. But it is seen that ulipristal acetate, which is sperm, means progesterone receptor modulator, about which I will talk later on, is also showing similar advantages. Then there is competition between GnRH analog and ulipristal acetate, that which is to be used pre-operatively, means pre-myomectomy. Adback therapy, as I said, कि bone mineral density कम हो जाती है. So adback therapy is necessary with the GnRH analog, which can be given in form of tibolone, raloxifene, estriol, ipriflavin, etc. And tibolone and medroxyprogesterone acetates are used for the reduction of the vasomotor symptoms. This is also confirmed by the Cochrane reviews. This is all about the adback therapy. Estrogens usually we are not using because of the fear of the endometrial hyperplasia, but COC can be used. And in patients where hormonal treatment is not justified or contraindicated, in those patients we can use for the bone mineral density as adback therapy bisphosphonates, जो कि orthopedicians देते हैं, alendronate, ibendronate, etc. And this was about the agonist. Agonist थोड़े means still they are affordable, but antagonists are, because of the cost, they are not affordable. So antagonist usually infertility treatment में तो use हो रहे हैं, but not for the fibroid. Otherwise they directly inhibits the GnRH receptor, causing suppression of FSH LH secretion. तो जो इफेक्ट एगोनिस्ट का था कि फर्स्ट डोज से फ्लेयर इफेक्ट था, फिर मल्टीपल डोजेस से उनका सप्रेशन इफेक्ट था, it is not there with the antagonist. This effect of suppression is there from the beginning. US FDA has approved these drugs, cetrorelix, aberralix, etc. They are used as injectables, as agonist का भी मैंने बताया, nasal spray and injectables. But because of the cost, they are not used. Aromatase inhibitors like letrozole, we know, infertility treatment में as ovulation inducing drugs ये सब use होता है, but fibroid के treatment में try किया था because of the anti-estrogen property or conversion of androgen of means conversion by the aromatase enzyme of androgen into estrogen into the fatty tissues. But it is also used. Excuse me, आवाज आ रही है कुछ? Then selective estrogen receptor modulators, ये बीच में आए थे कि इन्हें यूज करना है, like ormeloxifene. So selective estrogen receptor modulators, the mechanism of action is they bind to estrogen receptor. उसके पीछे थ्योरी यही थी कि estrogen के कारण ग्रो होते हैं. They causes conformational changes, initiate transcription and repression of specific proteins. They are having tissue selective action, and drugs are tamoxifen, raloxifene, ormeloxifene. So ormeloxifene was used a lot for some time. Suddenly Savista बहुत popular हुई थी, which was developed at CDRI Lucknow as oral contraceptive because of its anti-estrogenic action on uterus and breast. It was used in all the conditions which are thought to be dominated by the estrogen receptors. Adverse effects noted were menopausal hot flushes, amenorrhea, and ovarian cysts. But then after some time, it was observed that some say, selective estrogen receptor modulators say there was no reduction noted in the size of fibroid. So limited evidences just removed this drug in the treatment of fibroid. Now it is removed totally. So Savista, people ask कि Savista use कर सकते हैं छोटे fibroid के treatment में. Savista will be useful as contraceptive agent, Novex DS, Ormifen, Ormexi 60 mg, Ormelin 60. These all are the drugs, Ormeloxifene, which are available in the market. They are used as contraceptive pill. They are used to treat the heavy menstrual bleeding, endometriosis, etc., but not for the fibroid. So the new fact is progesterone plays vital role in promoting uterine fibroid growth, and it is seen that progesterone receptor binding is 3 times higher in fibroid as in myometrium. Means myometrium में जितने receptors हैं उनसे 3 times higher binding उस fibroid के अंदर
कि ना मम्मी बेहोश हो गई एकदम. अरे वो सरिता कि आप आके देख सकते हो. मैंने कहा ना भैया कोरोना का.
प्लीज बाकी सबको म्यूट कर दीजिए.
क्रॉस कनेक्शन हो रहा है क्या कहीं?
नहीं, क्रॉस कनेक्शन नहीं, somebody
खुशबू, कैन यू चेक व्हाट्स हैपनिंग?
Yes ma'am, I have muted that person. गलती से अनम्यूट हो गए थे शायद.
हाँ, तो आप ना सिर्फ स्पीकर के अलावा अभी किसी को भी म्यूट ना करें. सबको अनम्यूट, हाँ सबको म्यूट करके रखिए.
Right.
Okay.
So the progesterone has dual action of fibroid growth. ये 3 words लिखे हुए हैं. One is BCL2. BCL2 means beta cell lymphoma, which is a protein which inhibits apoptosis. Apoptosis means timed death of the cell. तो उसको बंद करने के लिए मीन्स एक प्रोटीन है जो कि BCL2 है जो एपोप्टोसिस होने नहीं देता. तो उस एपोप्टोसिस को इनहिबिट करता है एंड प्रोजेस्टेरॉन उस चीज को रेगुलेट कर रहा है. तो what is happening is progesterone is upregulating the BCL2. Progesterone is upregulating the EGF. EGF means epidermal growth factor, and progesterone is decreasing the tumor necrotic factor. So all these things are causing the कि एक तो डेथ नहीं हो पा रही है सेल की, दूसरा एंजियोजेनेसिस मतलब ट्यूमर बढ़ रहा है साइज में, और दूसरा तीसरी चीज फाइब्रॉइड सेल प्रोलिफरेशन हो रहा है. All these things are increasing the size of the fibroid. So SPERMs came in picture. The selective progesterone receptor modulator is the new class, which is selective agonist and antagonist mixed activity on target cell. Short-term use of SPERMs is considered as effective treatment of symptomatic fibroid because they improve the quality of life, they reduces the menstrual bleeding, and one more thing is very important, I will take it later on, that is sperm associated endometrial, sperm associated SPRM associated endometrial changes are seen. खूब endometrium thick हो जाती है, but उससे डरना नहीं है, they are the benign changes. Cochrane review was done in 2017. This also shows that SPRMs improve the quality of life, reduces the menstrual bleeding, and higher rates of amenorrhea we are able to achieve in the patients who are suffering with the fibroid. And these associated endometrial changes are seen as benign changes, not precancerous or cancerous changes. These include elapristone, एसोप्रिस्निल, यूलिप्रिस्टॉल एसीटेट एंड मिफिप्रिस्टोन. तो हमारे पास दो ड्रग्स अवेलेबल हैं बाय द कंपनीज. दे आर यूलिप्रिस्टॉल एसीटेट एंड मिफिप्रिस्टोन. मिफिप्रिस्टोन इज आल्सो कॉल्ड द मिरेकल ड्रग व्हिच वाज डिस्कवर्ड इन 1980. 1980 में ही आ गया था, एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड फर्स्ट स्पर्म, फर्स्ट सिलेक्टिव प्रोजेस्टेरोन रिसेप्टर मॉड्यूलेटर. बट मिफिप्रिस्टोन तब किस लिए यूज होता था? दैट टाइम इट वाज यूज्ड एज अबॉर्टिव पिल. इनिशियली अबॉर्शन के लिए यूज हुआ, इमरजेंसी कॉन्ट्रासेप्शन के लिए यूज हुआ, बट इसका यूज इन फाइब्रॉइड केम in picture when ulipristal acetate was developed in 2010. Then they thought that SPRM mifepristone bhi hai, why not we should use it, and then mifepristone is also came in picture in 2010. So ulipristal acetate, the efficacy is evaluated by so many trials. They are called PEARL trials, and PEARL 1, PEARL 2, PEARL 3 trials were done, in which they compared the efficacy of ulipristal acetate in various doses, various times. जैसे 5 mg और 10 mg को evaluate किया, फिर उन्होंने सिर्फ ulipristal acetate को GnRH एनालॉग से evaluate किया, then ulipristal acetate 10 mg को 12 weeks तक देकर देखा, and results were almost same in all the trials, and no differences were noted in control of bleeding. So they came to the conclusion that 10 mg ulipristal acetate is a effective dose of this SPRM, and at this 10 mg dose it is better tolerated and control the bleeding more rapidly. Uterine volume changes are greater with the leuprolide than ulipristal acetate. जो कि चाहिए था कि यूट्राइन वॉल्यूम कम हो जाए, तो ल्यूप्रोलाइड से ज्यादा दिखा, बट देन इन अल्ट्रासाउंड व्हेन दे ऑब्जर्व्ड इट, द वॉल्यूम रिमेन्स द सेम. Associated benign endometrial changes, which are termed as progesterone receptor modulator associated endometrial changes, they noted in up to 2/3 of the women and resolved within 6 months of discontinuation of the treatment. It means they were not malignant. So just it was told that अगर 11, 12, 13 millimeter thickness आ जाती है with these drugs, we should not worry. We should just see the effect in 3 or 4 months time. One DNC can be done to see whether malignant changes are developing or not. But बार बार अगर thickness दिख रही है तो DNC करने की जरूरत नहीं है. PEARL extension trial was also done, in which what they had tried is कि जैसे advised है कि ulipristal acetate 3 महीने के लिए दिया या 6 महीने के दिया, इन्होंने किया कि 3 months के 4 courses देके मतलब करीब 12 months तक they had given the ulipristal acetate to the patient and it remained safe. बस उसके साथ उन्होंने एक और चीज जोड़ी, that is norethistron acetate, that is progestins, in between the courses to combat the changes which are occurring because of the ulipristal acetate on endometrium. तो नेटा डाल के देखा, नेटा से क्या हुआ, उन्होंने सोचा कि नेटा देने से this endometrial change will revert back या endometrium shade हो जाएगी. So what they observed, there was no difference. Use of norethistron between courses of UA has no effect on progesterone receptor modulator associated endometrial changes. So they came to the conclusion that there is no use of giving neta along with ulipristal acetate. And amenorrhea rates were also very good. 90% तक amenorrhea achieve हो गया 4 cycles में, and median fibroid volume भी change हो गया 72% तक in 4 cycles. So the conclusion of Pearl extension trial was that ulipristal acetate is a very effective treatment for the uterine fibroid for long term also. Then miracle drug. जब ulipristal को try कर रहे थे उसी समय they thought कि why not we try mifepristone, which is also selective progesterone receptor modulator, which was diagnosed as, means discovered as RU486, and this drug is also showed similar effects as ulipristal. So it is the new drug which is used for the fibroid management, which is synthetic steroid progesterone receptor modulator with primarily antagonistic properties. It binds strongly to endometrial progesterone receptors, minimally to estrogen receptors. Ulipristal का क्या है, वो दोनों receptor से bind करती है. It is binding mainly with the progesterone receptors and under-regulates the androgen receptors. Doses are 5 to 50 milligram in 3 to 6 months time. But as I said, low dose mifepristone is tried and became effective. I'll take it later on. So can be given as vaginal tablet 10 milligrams OD for 3 months for the control of the fibroid size. And it is seen that it decreases the menstrual blood loss and improves the symptoms of the fibroid in this dose. Side effects are same, hot flushes, fatigue. The main concern with the progesterone receptor modulator is elevated liver transaminases. So we should be very careful in the patients who are having liver diseases by for giving these progesterone receptor modulators. And another side effect which I said, the endometrial changes. Ultrasound करेंगे, endometrium thick दिखेगा और हम लोग डर जाएंगे, which is benign, proved in the trials. So Cochrane 2012 trial said that mifepristone reduces heavy menstrual bleeding and improves the fibroid specific quality of life. Then they tried mifepristone and GnRH analog, दोनों को एक साथ compare किया. GnRH analog is working from the central system, means it is having direct action on the pituitary, while selective progesterone receptor modulator are directly working on fibroid, directly working on endometrium, and simultaneously they are having GnRH analog type effect by acting on the pituitary, inducing the amenorrhea by inhibiting ovulation and maintaining mid-follicular phase levels of the estradiol. So when they compared mifepristone with GnRH analog, तो ये देखा गया कि visual analog scale is used for the pain. तो पेन के लिए इस स्केल को देखने पर देखा कि marked relief with significant decrease in pain is noted in both the groups. So both are effective in reducing the pain of the fibroid. So if the main complaint of the patient is pain, then both the drugs are equally effective, like GnRH analog or selective progesterone receptor modulator like mifepristone or ulipristal. Treatment with mifepristone 25 milligrams daily for 3 months significantly reduced bleeding, uterine volume, and myoma volume. So the comparison showed that, as I said, ulipristal was equally effective. Mifepristone is also equally effective as GnRH agonist. Mifepristone is better tolerated than GnRH agonist with few side effects. Lesser recurrence rate is seen in comparison to GnRH analog. उसमें ज्यादा रिकरेंस रेट है, बंद करते ही हैं जैसे इंजेक्शन, फिर पेशेंट आ जाती है रिकरेंस के साथ. So with mifepristone and with ulipristal, because both are working as the means on the same route, both are selective progesterone receptor modulators, so both are having lesser recurrence rate. Mifepristone is more effective in decreasing blood flow to uterus than the GnRH agonist. अभी AICOG लखनऊ में एक केस रिपोर्ट प्रेजेंट हुआ था, किसी ने किया था, जो कि इस कंपनी ने मुझे दिया है. That is a 48 years old lady with heavy menstrual bleeding with severe anemia of 5.3 grams came. Uterine volume बड़ा था, multiple fibroids थे, and surgery was very risky in this patient because of the ischemic heart disease, means so many heart conditions, and renal vein thrombosis. In this patient, they had given mifepristone 25 mg per day orally for 3 months, and uterine volume was reduced. Size of largest fibroid was reduced tremendously. Patient had amenorrhea at the end of 3 months, and hemoglobin from 5 to raised to 9.5 gram. So they concluded with this report that for patients who are at high risk or unwilling for surgery, mifepristone can be considered as a safe alternative. Similarly, mifepristone is a good alternative for the pre और पेरीमेनोपॉजल वीमेन, जिनका ये है कि हम मिफेप्रिस्टोन और यूलिप्रिस्टोल देते रहें. लिवर एंजाइम्स जरूर देखने हैं, लिवर की सेफ्टी जरूर रखनी है, and then they will achieve the amenorrhea because of the menopause, and after that there will be no growth of the fibroid. So this one more thing is noted in the trials, that the atypical hyperplasia which is noted with the ulipristal was not there with the mifepristone. So this is one of the good thing when we compare the ulipristal with the mifepristone. उतना atypical hyperplasia नहीं दिखा जितना ulipristal से दिखा था, because ulipristal is working with many receptors and mifepristone is primarily working with the progesterone receptors. Endometrial biopsy showed no pre-malignant changes with the 50 milligram per day mifepristone for 3 months, and no risk of decrease in BMD and osteoporosis in both ulipristal and mifepristone. So, in the end, the take-home message is that according to the FIGO classification, when we see the intramural and subserous myomas which are having grade 2 to 6, means subserous में जिसमें peduncle नहीं है, we should try according to the size of the myoma non-hormonal treatment and patient की preference से hormonal medical management. If treatment fails, then myomectomy depending on the location, or myomectomy का route depending on the location. Short-term management up to 6 months with GnRH agonist with add-back therapy is to be tried before myomectomy to reduce the size, and it will definitely reduce the symptoms before myomectomy. Long-term management, if the patient is not having big myomas and her main concern is heavy menstrual bleeding, Mirena is still having role. New options, mifepristone and ulipristal acetate, are tried if we don't want to give GnRH agonist to these patients. But submucosal myoma जो कि कैविटी में है, like 0 and are to
सही
be
टाइम
done.
लगा, ये भी खत्म हो गया, अब डिस्कशन होना
कोई
है.
मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट यूजुअली इफेक्टिव नहीं होता है. So hysteroscopic myomectomy should be done with short course of medical management. One more thing, ulipristal के लिए जो मैंने पढ़ा था, that is ulipristal can change the invasion of the myoma. So it make the myoma removal little easier and changes the myomectomy ka route. So this is the take home message, that we should initially give short term medical management if we require myomectomy in a big fibroid patient. And if the patient is perimenopausal, we should try medical therapy and she will become menopausal. So we will stop. But for submucosal myoma, definitely myomectomy is the answer by hysteroscopic route. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya ma'am. It was a very, very lucid and detailed discussion on fibroids in its all forms. Ma'am, should we continue with our panel discussion and then do question answers, or should we do question answers now?
I think panel भी कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद कर लेंगे.
Yeah, because once the discussions will
maybe वही questions उसमें भी आ जाएंगे. So we can do
yes,
that.
Aishwarya?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jaya ma'am. It was very informative and exhaustive. And you covered each and every aspect of medical management and the recent trends. Now, I am asking simple 3 questions, which mostly will cover all the case scenarios. And I will request one of the panelists to begin the discussion. So,
yeah, first of all, we have, along with Aishwarya, there is Dr. Neelam Garg and Renu Agarwal, and of course, Dr. Jaya ma'am, who will give their, and after that, I think the final will have a review of Dr. Jaya. So let's start with your first case, Aishwarya.
so yeah, this is case 1. Hope everybody can see it. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, the screen is
Yeah,
visible.
it's
Yes.
38
Yes, you are
years.
visible.
Yeah, it is 38 years female with inability to conceive since 8 years. And now she is complaining of heaviness in lower abdomen plus heavy menstrual bleeding which is lasting for 7 to 10 days since a year. On examination, the abdomen is soft, firm, and 12 to 14 weeks mass is felt arising from the pelvis, non-tender. On perispeculum, the cervix is normal. On pervaginum, uterus is firm, enlarged, occupying the whole pelvis. On ultrasound, we find a hypoechoic lesion approximately 5 to 6 centimeter in the myometrium in the anterior fundal region, close to the endometrium, but not distorting the cavity. So what is the best approach? This question is to Dr. Renu Agarwal, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Renu, are you there? Dr. Renu ma'am, are you there?
रेनू मैम अनम्यूट करिए अपने आप को.
Yeah. So this much big fibroid, ideally it could be operated, and patient is nearly 38 years of the age. It's near to menopause, but still having very big pelvic mass. So prior to removal, we should give some treatment for control of uterine bleeding and for the reduction of the size. And as patient is not willing for the fertility, hysterectomy is the choice for treatment.
But since she has not conceived any time, so hysterectomy.
But first to ask from both of the husband and wife that they are planning for the future pregnancy or not willing, because she is already 38 years.
Yeah.
So maybe due to age, fertility may not be the question at this time, because the fibroid is already of 14-week size. So in my opinion, first to give the selective progesterone modulator to reduce the vaginal bleeding and reduce the size and size of fibroid and uterus, then according to the wish of the patient, either go for myomectomy or for the hysterectomy.
Dr. Neelam, you want to add something?
Yeah, considering that the patient is 38 years female, in the scenario that she wants to conceive and she's almost reached a stage where her AMH and AFC would be very less, we don't have very much long time to give her management. I would operate upon it and do further infertility treatment, whether she conceives by simple treatment or by IV.
But in the IVF era, patients are willing to go for IVF even after 40.
Where we ARMs and other management. Pardon?
In the IVF era, people are willing to go for fertility treatment even after 40. So don't you consider?
Yeah, of course.
Extra.
Even at 30, you cannot refuse.
It is according to the wish of the couple. Actually, affordability is also a matter for IVF.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Dutta, you want to add something?
Yes, yes, Aishwarya. These are two views that we have got from Dr. Renu and Dr. Neelam, but there is a third view, because the 38 years nowadays we cannot shut off the possibilities for treatment. So if 38 years is not something that is going to inhibit a patient for further lots of treatments. So there, I think we can view it in two ways. First of all is that we can go for size reduction by medical treatment, go for hysteroscopic myomectomy. That is the first, that can be one way of doing it. Second way of doing it is, because it's a big size fibroid, we can go even for an open myomectomy, depending on how we need a detailed ultrasound mapping and further details of the ultrasound of this patient. It has to be, we have to go further in detail and find out the exact location, the margins of the fibroid, how, what is the shape of the uterine cavity, and accordingly we have to plan it. But definitely for me, it's the uterus has to be preserved. We can go by two ways: size reduction by medical treatment, maybe ulipristal or fibroase or GnRH analog is not so preferable to me pre-operatively, because most of the times the planes are not at all clear cut while doing surgery. So medical treatment by ulipristal or fibroase, side reduction, going for laparoscopic myomectomy, that is the one part. First, one way of doing it. Secondly, we can go for open directly laparotomy and a myomectomy. And it's a clear-cut case. This fibroid can come out easily with a good repair. Yes, this patient has can go for treatment. And let's be aware, 38 years is a patient may conceive naturally also. And if there is the AMH levels or her initial AFCs and all are very low, and her ovarian reserve is very, very poor, you can go for IVF. That will be the second thing. So these are the two
patient, ideally should be taken for laparoscopic myomectomy, and in the same sitting we can also evaluate the other causes of subfertility, like tubal testing and all, endometriosis. If mild even it's there, it can be cured. So definitely my approach, and 80% people will agree that laparoscopic myomectomy is the best approach for such patients, so that the avenues for the infertility treatment are open, and she can in future go for IVF or natural conception. Now, Jaya ma'am.
Yes, I am, means my opinion is also laparoscopic myomectomy, we should give chance to her if she wishes. No? So laparoscopic myomectomy is the ideal treatment with pre-operative little bit medical management, but that should be very short-term management.
Yeah, very short, because age is already
yeah, that is short-term.
Yeah, okay, thank you ma'am. Now coming to the second case, we have 32 years female, para 4, live 4, heavy menstrual bleeding since 2 years, and in between there is intermenstrual bleed also since 1 year. There is dysmenorrhea. On examination, abdomen is soft, cervix is normal. On pervaginum, the uterus is bulky, anteverted, mobile. On transvaginal examination, ultrasound, there is a hypoechoic, well-defined solid mass, approximately 2 into 1.5 centimeter, with overlying layer of hyperechoic endometrium, suggestive of submucous fibroid type 1, and which is extending to the left lateral wall. What's the best way to manage? I think ma'am has explained very nicely. So I'm asking this question to Dr. Neelam.
Yeah, I think hysteroscopic myomectomy would be the only answer.
Yeah. So any prerequisites?
Yeah,
I don't think any particular. You have to do a proper ultrasound if possible. If you want, you can. MRI can be done if you are in doubt.
Yeah. And yeah, the grading, which step W classification,
Assess
the
the
madam has
exact of
shown.
fibroid, and
because it is going towards the lateral
the
wall.
fibroid should be at least.
Yeah, I would like to just add that you may have to lapro in this, because you may have to have abdominal view, because there's a fibroid that is extending laterally above in this. So alone hysteroscopy may not be adequate. What do you say, Jaya ma'am?
It can be. It can be.
That comes into the complex hysteroscopy, but yeah, it can be done because it's type 1 only, and plus penetration
Pre-op
also.
MRI would be of lot of help
penetration.
for this.
Yeah, penetration. How much penetration is there in the myometrium, that has to be known. Plus, patient should not be anemic.
First investigation is MRI. MRI में आप लोकेशन देख लो, and MRI से अगर वो आपका सिर्फ स्टेज 1 ही है, then I don't think laparoscopy is much necessary.
Yes.
But laparoscopy will definitely add in it if we are doing for some other reason, like for infertility tubal evaluation. Like
so we can be safe also, Anna.
Yeah.
If we are not causing any perforation, laparoscopy can always help.
Yes.
No problem keeping a scope above. Now,
Yeah.
should I come to case 3? This is case for Dr. Renu ma'am. This is 33 years old female, gravida 2, para 1, live 1, last delivery 4 years back with amenorrhea of 4 months. Now complaining of worsening lower abdominal pain, which is constant and disturbing her sleep since 4 days. There is no history of any bleeding, no increase in frequency, slight increase in frequency of micturition and mild constipation. There is no history of trauma. On examination, pulse rate is slightly increased. BP is normal, per abdomen is 16 weeks, slight tenderness is present over the uterus, cervix is normal or closed. On ultrasound, 5 to 6 centimeter, or you can increase the size, hypoechoic mass seen in the subserosal region with the areas of cystic changes, with the normal intrauterine pregnancy of 16 weeks. How to proceed?
Yeah, first we will proceed for the general examination and all CBC, hemoglobin and all. And better to get MRI just to see the location, exact location of the fibroid and the planes. First, to alleviate the pain of the patient. So I would like to try NSAIDs and fibroids or levetiracetam.
Pregnant, no?
Ma'am, if I'm not mistaken, she's pregnant.
Yes, she's pregnant.
Yes, ma'am. Please have a look at the slides again.
Intrauterine pregnancy.
Four month
degeneration.
Pregnancy.
Yeah, red degeneration.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't focus on the pregnancy.
Yes. So actually, she is having pain.
Mainly the pain.
She is pregnant. Fibroid. The effect of pregnancy on fibroid, as I said, is necrobiosis, and necrobiosis means it is degenerating inside, and this degeneration is also called a red degeneration of fibroid, and the treatment is just relieve the patient's pain.
And
all the conditions, pulse rate which is increased, feverish feel, all are because of this necrobiosis, which is aseptic, means not septic thing. Septic phenomena is not going on there. So conservative management is the only answer in this case.
And what about
progesterone? Giving progesterone will also help this patient?
Not necessarily. Means progesterone se koi effect nahi hona, but progesterone will not increase. As we all know, the effect of progesterone on pregnancy, that it will not induce.
At least it will cushion the uterus
But it will calm the uterus,
Calm
but
the patient.
not for this red degeneration. She will not have any effect of progesterone.
Is there
This is
role
an
of
acute
uterine
event.
relaxant, ma'am?
No, not at all. Not at all. But
So only NSAIDs will do.
if we
Paracetamol, yeah.
are giving already progesterone to her, we should continue that. 16 weeks pregnancy है, maybe she is receiving progesterone. और जो नया ये सब पढ़ रहे हैं कि because of the progesterone receptor the fibroid grows in size, तो maybe later on in the studies it will come out that this red degeneration in the fibroid may be occurring because of the progesterone which we are giving from outside.
Yes.
Maybe. Studies are not done till date.
Basically, it's an acute event in a pregnancy and it has to be treated conservatively with supportive treatment. This acute event will subside and the pregnancy will continue.
Pregnancy will continue.
So
That is
during the
the,
delivery, if the patient is having cesarean section, will you try to attempt cesarean mammectomy? Renu ma'am, your topic of interest?
Yeah, definitely. While if patient deliver normally, there is no issue.
Undergoes cesarean, if she undergoes cesarean.
Yeah, if she undergoes cesarean, yes, after delivery of the child or repair of the uterus, I will definitely see for the location and size of the uterus after contraction of the uterus, and then ask the anesthetist the condition of the patient if allows to operate it, and there is not much significant bleeding. Yes, during pregnancy it is in favor of the patient to remove the uterus in the same removal of the fibroid in the same setting.
Dr. Neelam, you want to add?
I would myself like to ask Dr. Jaya how vascular is the degenerated fibroid, because I've never seen such type of a case during a cesarean. So would it be safe if it's a subserous fibroid and it's degenerating?
Subserous fibroids are usually showing the degeneration, but not red degeneration. Red degeneration is mostly seen in the intramural type of fibroid. Subserous fibroid are showing hyaline degeneration sort of things because of the very less vascularity. So it is said that number 6 and 7 fibroids can be easily dealt during the cesarean.
Even if it's degenerating, red degeneration?
It can be, because they are mostly, means 7 is totally subserous with the peduncle, so ये तो remove किया जा सकता है, but 6 is also mostly subserous, less than 50% intramural. It can also be dealt with good cautery, etc. with us.
As you already told, ma'am, usually fibroid flatten during pregnancy.
Yeah.
So they become more easy to remove during cesarean, as I feel.
But if they are totally intramural, they are really difficult, and we should not attempt if they are not so, and they are not having good means cleavage.
So it's the individual decision of the operating surgeon at the time of the surgery.
6 and 7 are indicated. FIGO classification we should keep in our mind every time, and according to that we should jump on the treatment.
So Dr. Nutan, these are the 3 questions. Now you take over the moderation. Hello?
4 questions are there in
I
the
think, yes, all 3.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
No
Please.
questions from the...
Yes.
So there is a question by Dr. Anshu. Is it safe to use Ulipristol in COVID times considering its implications on LFTs? Very good question. If LFT is normal, then there is no problem. LFT इतनी जल्दी खराब नहीं होते. So we should use Ulipristol, but definitely we should keep an eye. Means COVID times का इसके ऊपर कोई effect नहीं होना चाहिए. It is my opinion. So we should use Ulipristol.
There are, yes, ma'am. There is one more by Dr. Suman Sethi also. Ma'am, you can read that also.
Sethi madam का question है, if USG shows adenomyosis and fibroids, what will be the line of treatment? Yes, ma'am. The line of treatment will be adenomyosis is not responding to any drug usually. It is said it is histopathological diagnosis, but now with the MRI, etc., we are able to diagnose it beforehand. It is hyperestrogenic condition. But fibroid के लिए the latest development, it is progesterone receptor condition. So sperms like things, selective progesterone receptor modulators will help in both adenomyosis and in fibroid. So the treatment line is medical management if the patient is not very much symptomatic. But if the patient completed her not desirous of fertility and pain is the main concern, then definitely adenomyosis का treatment आज भी जो कहा जाता है that is hysterectomy. So adenomyosis and fibroid, if both are together, we can treat either with the medical management, which will not help much on the adenomyosis, but it will help the fibroid. And if patient's concern is mainly severe pain, we can decrease it with the drugs, NSAIDs, and if the patient had completed her family, we can do the hysterectomy in such case. यहाँ myomectomy का कोई rule नहीं है.
मैम आपकी ओपिनियन में will Dynogest will help for adenomyosis?
Adenomyosis में कर सकती है Dynogest, definitely. वो है भी treatment, endometriosis and adenomyosis का treatment है, तो we can try Dynogest. Dynogest is means the drug which is anti-estrogen, so it will help in the adenomyosis. तो हम दोनों ड्रग्स तो यूज नहीं कर सकते हैं, so we can use Dynogest in this case, but it is really tricky what to do in her case. What is the main drug which will be used? So I think Dynogest can be used, but Dynogest, as far as details are concerned, it is not effective in fibroid management. तो अगर fibroid कम है, adenomyosis ज्यादा है, Dynogest can be used. If fibroid is the more concern, हाँ, यहाँ पर एक और चीज आती है, LNG-IUS we can use in such cases. LNG-IUS can do wonder in such cases because it is progestin, it is helping in adenomyosis, it is helping in fibroid also. So the patient can be relieved for a long time with this Mirena insertion only. Mirena is the best treatment.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
An infertile patient with multiple fibroids, some of them intramural, some of them showing pressure into the cavity. Suppose I decide to give her ulipristal for some time so that the fibroids shrink, and I might know that what is the final picture of the myomectomy that we need to do if necessary before trying her for further fertility management. Suppose I give ulipristal, then after how many months can we start the fertility treatment if the fibroids have shrunk already? Like, should we wait for the period of amenorrhea to go away and let her resume her periods to start infertility treatment?
Otherwise, the treatment will not be so effective. So she should come back with the situation. So I think after 6 months, 3 months ka treatment dijiye, and then wait for the amenorrhea. To wait for the resumption of the period, and after that we can start, or we can just start the ART drugs if ART is to be done.
Okay, ma'am, if suppose after the shrinkage of fibroids, then also we decide that a laparoscopy is to be done, or plus a hysteroscopy is to be done, and there are multiple fibroids, 5, 6, 7. So in laparoscopy, we do not go by feeling of the hand. So there must be 2, 3, 4, or maybe 1 fibroid that escapes and remains intramural.
That is what they say. कितनी भी drugs दे दें हम pre-operatively during myomectomy, maybe we will leave some fibroid and they will regrow. So patient will come to us that she is having failure of treatment, she is having recurrence. आपने गड़बड़ किया है. But this possibility is always there. So initially, medical management for few months, then we can do the myomectomy, and after that also if patient is desirous of फर्टिलिटी मतलब उसको इनफर्टिलिटी ट्रीटमेंट देना है, देन वी शुड स्टार्ट दैट ट्रीटमेंट. नेचुरली कंसीव कर जाएगी तो फाइब्रॉइड ग्रोथ यूजुअली नहीं होता है, दिस इज व्हाट वी ऑब्जर्व. और अगर नहीं करती है देन वी, और या नहीं करना चाहती है, देन वी कैन put her again on the medical treatment after myomectomy.
Don't you think that in such a patient who is having multiple fibroids and is infertile, we should leave away laparoscopy and do an open surgery so that we can take away as many myomas as we can?
No.
Even if we are proficient in laparoscopy, but a feel of a hand will help you to take out 2-3 more myomas, I think, by tunneling or whatever.
This is open surgery is always said to be good unless उसके open surgery की complications नहीं आ गए थे. Open surgery की complications are not for the achievement of the pregnancy, but बाद में कभी cesarean की जरूरत पड़ी, then the problems are there. So open surgery में मैंने देखा है लोगों को 50-50, 60-60 मायोमास निकाल के ट्रे में सजा के और उनकी फोटोज खींच के दिखाते हुए. So it is possible, and we should do if laparoscopically we are thinking we are not so efficient, we can do the open myomectomy. और उसमें जो Boney's hood suggest किया जाता था कि पीछे की तरफ के मायोमास हैं तो उनको ऐसे कवर कर दो कि पीछे एडिशंस न बने, and uterus will not become retroverted. Retroverted uterus is the cause of infertility. So we will make the Boney's hood जितने ज़्यादा मायोमास निकाल सके एक ही इंसिजन से निकाले, and that hood is to be covered like this. So posteriorly कोई adhesions नहीं आएंगे, all the incision and all the suturing will be done anteriorly. So this is described in our Boney's myomectomy book, and we used to practice also.
And even a good laparoscopist won't be able to do a Boney's myomectomy type of thing and tunneling and taking out extra fibroids.
They can, and they are doing also.
Okay.
Doing also. That
addition, there is less addition formation in the lap approach. So
Yeah,
for in infertility, lap approach is good. It's even if
always. Then,
ma'am, there is a question also by Dr. Suman Sethi, ma'am. I'll read it out for you. She says she's asking that a primary with multiple fibroids and too large in the lower segment method of delivery.
And multiple fibroids and too large fibroids.
Larger ones are in the lower segment. So what would be the method of delivery?
Definitely, अगर lower segment में है, it will obstruct the passage of the fetus during the labor. So we have to do the cesarean section in her case.
And we may have to maybe take the old traditional vertical approach, or that depending on whatever is the position of the fibroid or how it is, we may have to, you can't, I think it will have to be on the situation of whatever is there.
The main problem which can occur in this case is, अगर lower segment में fibroid है, then the means third stage of labor can be troublesome in this patient, even after cesarean section. So hemostasis can be a problem. उस समय हमें uterine artery ligation वगैरह करना पड़ सकता है. So the method of delivery, there is no confusion. It should be cesarean in her case, but how to do the cesarean, how safer the cesarean section procedure will be in her case, and what will happen in third stage of labor, that should be in our mind beforehand, because third stage can be troublesome in this patient. Contraction.
Yes, ma'am. She may need an high institutional planned delivery in which with all the blood transfusions and the planning and the support system for PPH and all these things. We may also have to think of uterine artery ligation or embolization. All these things, preparations will have to be there before planning this thing.
हम लोग placenta, accreta, placenta percreta के cases में आजकल ऐसे ही कर रहे हैं. We are having good interventional radiologists with us, and lot of such cases coming to us. तो उन पेशेंट्स को पहले से हम लोग वो डलवा देते हैं, मीन्स कैथेटर जो डालना होता है एम्बोलाइजेशन के लिए, फिर पेशेंट को ओटी में ले जाते हैं, ओटी में ले जाके सिजेरियन सेक्शन जिस समय कर रहे होते हैं उसी समय एम्बोलाइजेशन करवाते हैं, so that it is not affecting the fetus and it is purpose, means solving our purpose of not to have bleeding
Yes.
after removal of the.
Because has been a increase in a spurt of cases of placenta accreta syndrome, so that is why
Every week, in a week or two, there is a case coming like that.
Would you ever like to do a myomectomy before taking out the baby if the fibroid is completely occluding the lower segment?
Never, never. Because during cesarean, means when we are giving anesthesia, the baby is in danger.
You don't have time.
So we must remove the baby first, whatever the situation is.
Ma'am, there is one more question that is the embolization, I think Neelam Moli has asked it, that should the embolization be bilateral when it's done?
No, no, no. In fibroid, it is not required. Fibroid के लिए वो क्या करते हैं, जा रहा है और fibroid के base पर ये सारे gel और ये whatever the vinyl particle they are using, they are taking it up to that. But if the approach to the fibroid is difficult, then bilaterally uterine arteries.
And especially, and also in these placenta accreta syndromes, also they will be bilateral whenever it will be done. Achha, there's ma'am one more query by Dr. Anshu Kakkad. That ulipristal is recently withdrawn by European Medical Association due to increased hepatic failure and increasing risk for COVID and associated morbidity. How much is it true? That is what she wants to know.
This is what the first question also means they asked that in COVID times we should give or not. But it depends. अभी हमारे पास कोई study तो है नहीं. तो if the patient is not having any means COVID positivity, COVID positive patients में तो definitely we should refrain for giving all these things which are affecting the major organs like kidney and liver. कुछ ऐसा treatment ही नहीं देना है. But if the patient is okay, LFT, etc., pre-treatment are absolutely okay, I don't think there should be any problem with the COC or with LNGIUS or with ulipristal. I don't think.
Ma'am, one more question that I would want to know is, yes, ma'am, about HIFU. Recently, there have been multiple talks and discussions on HIFU. What is your take on that, ma'am? Because I think these things require specialized machines, and especially in India, I think its availability is still not there. What is your take on that, ma'am?
नहीं, India में है availability. In Delhi, it is available at some place. किसने बताया था शायद? In Delhi, it is available. Means a few places in India, it is available. But definitely, I asked them the cost is too much. और उतना बेनिफिट नहीं हो रहा है. यूट्राइन वॉल्यूम उतना कम नहीं हो रहा है. डिजेनरेशंस नोट हो रहे हैं. बिकॉज अगर हीटिंग इफेक्ट पूरा नहीं गया फाइब्रॉइड पे, then half fibroid is degenerated and half is not degenerated, it will cause lot of problem to the patient. This is what I understood.
Ma'am, that is what it is. Maybe it was a promotion of that specific thing, because there were number of cases that were presented in that meet in which it was showed as an OPD procedure, in which a patient can walk in, do it, and after maybe in a day or two, she can do any heavy work that she's doing.
Yeah.
That is what they were claiming.
So,
but okay, because the flip side, maybe we were have not yet looked at it. That is maybe the thing. Let me check, ma'am. Are there any more questions?
For this answer, no, this ulipristal is recently withdrawn. This I have not checked that it is withdrawn completely or not. Here I want to say that ulipristal से liver enzymes का ज़्यादा report हुआ है rise rather than mifepristone. Mifepristone से इतना rise नहीं देखा है. तो ulipristal की जगह alternative mifepristone can be used in such scenario. But mifepristone is also not totally safe, as the companies are saying कि ये liver enzyme नहीं बढ़ाता है, इसका effect नहीं आता है. I am having my reservation. If it is sperm, it is also affecting the liver, definitely.
Ma'am, what should be the interval in which we should get a LFT done? How should we keep a planning if to get an LFT done in 3 months, 6 months? What would you suggest?
Treatment cycle they say of 3 months. तो 1 महीने मतलब start पर किया, then after 3 months completion of.
So if you continue for next 3 months, you can get an LFT done and then proceed for the next 3 months.
Yes.
Is there if everyone is unmute, any audience would, if they would like to directly ask any question?
एक पेशेंट 2 महीने पहले मैम सिजेरियन किया था पेशेंट का पॉलीहाइड्रामनियोस करके, और अल्ट्रासाउंड में बेबी की कोई ऐसी कंजेनाइटल एनोमली की कोई फाइंडिंग नहीं थी. जस्ट पेशेंट केम विद पॉलीहाइड्रामनियोस और फिर उसको लीकिंग हुई और उसका हमने सिजेरियन किया मैम. तो पेशेंट जो है मल्टीपल एनोमलीज के साथ था. पीडियाट्रिशियन ने वो थोड़ी देर रहा बेबी, 4-5 मिनट, मतलब जितना रिवाइव किया वो हुआ नहीं, बट ऐसा कुछ अल्ट्रासाउंड में नहीं था. पर जब एक्सट्रैक्ट कर रहे थे बेबी को तो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो रही थी, क्योंकि बेबी बहुत छोटा सा था. तो हमें ये लग रहा था ये कहाँ फंस गया, क्यों नहीं निकल रहा सिजेरियन से. तो पीछे पोस्टीरियर वॉल में बेबी को जब आउट कर दिया तो पोस्टीरियर वॉल में हमें एक बड़ा सा फाइब्रॉइड टाइप का फील हुआ, जो कहीं रिपोर्टेड नहीं था अल्ट्रासाउंड में. तो ये करीब था मैम 4-5 इंच के करीब का होगा. तो देखने से ये लग रहा था कि बड़ा सा फाइब्रॉइड है. तो उस टाइम तो उसको बंद कर दिया और पेशेंट को भेज दिया. जब पेशेंट 8वें दिन आई टांके कटवाने के लिए तो अल्ट्रासाउंड मशीन ऑन थी, तो उसको देखा मैंने. तो मैम वो पिक्चर मुझे शेयर तो नहीं करनी आ रही, मैं आपके मोबाइल पे ये वाली दिखाती हूँ. देखिए मैम, ये पिक्चर थी उसकी फाइब्रॉइड की. तो ये ऐसा लगा कि ये शायद सिस्ट है या क्या हो सकता है ऐसा. तो पेशेंट को जो है मैम ब्लीडिंग कंटिन्यू रही काफी दिनों तक. तो उसके बाद पेशेंट सीमा मैम के पास गई थी, तो उसे फाइब्रोनॉम दिया मैम, तो ब्लीडिंग तो बंद हो गई. लेकिन उसके बाद एक MRI कराया, तो MRI में ये उन्होंने फाइब्रॉइड बताया. तो मैम अब लाइन ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट क्या होना चाहिए उसका आगे, क्योंकि वो प्राइम ही थी मैम, तो प्रेगनेंसी तो होनी
है. MRI में उसका एग्जैक्ट लोकेशन कहाँ बता रहे हैं?
सीमा मैम, ये सीमा मैम अनम्यूट कीजिए पहले.
They are reporting the same size on the posterior wall intramural.
Intramural posterior.
Intramural posterior wall, the same size which she reported. And actually it was looking like a ovarian on ultrasound, because I have never seen this kind of type of picture. So I ordered it. I straight away started fibronorm because she reported कि उसने हाथ से अपने आप देखा है, तो it should be more of a fibroid. तो इस बेसिस पे मैंने उसको फाइब्रोनॉम शुरू कर दिया. शी वाज ब्लीडिंग. उसकी ब्लीडिंग फॉर्चुनेटली 3 दिन बाद बंद हो गई. सेकंड डे से कम होके थर्ड डे शी वाज ऑल राइट. जब उसकी ब्लीडिंग बंद हुई है, थोड़ा सा वो सेटल हुआ, तब मैंने कहा अब इसका MRI करा के लो, बिकॉज वी आर स्टिल नॉट श्योर व्हाट इट इज. तो उसने जो कराया तो इट वाज ऑलमोस्ट बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली सेम साइज का था जितना अल्ट्रासाउंड में दिख रहा था. एंड इट इज इंट्राम्यूरल पोस्टीरियर वॉल फाइब्रॉइड. Ovaries are separately seen, they are normal. And they say there is a lot of hemorrhage inside the fibroid.
Okay. So I think ये patient को deliver हुए अब कितना time हो गया है?
मैम 2 महीने करीब हो गए.
2 months.
हाँ 2 months.
बिना कुछ सोचे हुए we can means put her put LNG-IUS in her case. उससे lactation period भी खत्म हो जाएगा और फाइब्रॉइड साइज भी थोड़ा रिड्यूस हो जाएगा और मे बी ब्लीडिंग भी नहीं हो से.
ब्लीडिंग तो अब खत्म हो गई. she has come to me after that also.
But otherwise the size etc. I think in her case the safest thing is Mirena.
मैम वो सिस्टिक डिजेनरेशन है फाइब्रॉइड में, जो वो हेमरेजिक चीजें दिखा रहे हैं.
MRI people say that the MRI people say that it is a large hemorrhage inside.
Yes, ये मैम बिल्कुल ऐसे लग रहा था कि it
Yes,
is
exactly.
ovarian cyst.
Whatever, this hemorrhage is because of the intramural fibroids are very vascular. सबसिरस वैस्कुलर नहीं होते, उनके डिजेनरेशंस डेफिनेटली वो डिफरेंट जो हाइलाइन और कैलकेरियस और ये सब डिफाइंड होते हैं वो होते हैं. हेमरेजिक डिजेनरेशन करके कोई वर्ड नहीं है. It is hemorrhage, but it is not degeneration. So
No,
it
no,
is
they
a
reported
collection.
hemorrhage only, no degeneration.
है ना? हाँ. It is collection because of the severe vascularity which was increased during the pregnancy. तो I think अब उसका ये वाला collection धीरे धीरे absorb हो जाएगा. And we will put the LNG IUS, the volume will definitely decrease in her case. And
और मैम
2-3 months के बाद उसे evaluate कर लेना चाहिए, and whatever the final treatment we want to give, we can give for the fibroid later on. पर अभी 3 months के लिए तो 3 months क्या 6 months LNG से अगर इफेक्ट उसको अच्छा रहता है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं रहती है, देन तो इट इज अ लॉन्ग टर्म थिंग. जैसा कि हम
मैम उसको तो सेकंड प्रेगनेंसी भी करनी है, तो तब
जब करेगी तब तक 2 साल में हो सकता है उसका फाइब्रॉइड भी बहुत मतलब रिड्यूस हो जाए साइज में.
ओके
है ना? तो अभी तो आप ये देख सकते हैं इन माय ओपिनियन.
ओके मैम, ओके, थैंक यू सो मच मैम.
Ma'am, I would like to, I think lots of members have left of the Dehradun Society, but warm welcome and thank you to all of them. It was such a pleasure having them also as our co-attendees. So, ma'am, I think please आप ही personally उनको ये message pass कर दीजिएगा. And if the members are still there, hearty welcome and it's a pleasure having you all as our co-attendees. So thanks for attending it and making this meeting even more, I think, successful by the attendance. Any more questions are there? Let me have a look at the chat box. I think there isn't any more questions. Anyone who would like to ask?
हेलो इंदिरा मैम.
हेलो इंदिरा मैम, अनम्यूट करिए.
हेलो, आई कैन नॉट सी द स्क्रीन. मुझे स्क्रीन नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है. मेरे फोन में वॉइस आ रही है, स्क्रीन नहीं आ रहा है.
मैम आप वीडियो वाला जो बटन है उसको ऑन कर दीजिए, आपको दिख जाएगा.
वीडियो ऑन कर दिया है, वीडियो मेरा ऑन है, मैं अनम्यूट हूँ, लेकिन स्क्रीन नहीं आ रहा. अभी एकदम से स्क्रीन चला गया कोई 10-15 मिनट से.
मैम
कोई
आप
बात
हमें
नहीं मैम, आप बात करिए.
आप दिखाई दे रहे हो.
आप बात करिए मैम, सुनाई दे रहा है, प्लीज आप बोलिए.
बहुत अच्छा सेशन डॉक्टर जया चतुर्वेदी ने लिया, मजा आ गया और बहुत अच्छे से उन्होंने समझाया, बताया, लेटेस्ट उन्होंने बताया और बड़ी अच्छे से डिटेल में सब डिस्कशन हुआ. पैनल डिस्कशन बहुत अच्छा रहा. आई एंजॉयड द सेशन, रियली सो नाइस. थैंक यू डॉक्टर जया एंड ऑल द पैनलिस्ट.
Thank you.
Can I say something in the end?
Thank you so much.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Dr. Suman here.
Yes, hello ma'am. Yes ma'am, please.
Thank you, Dr. Jaya. You were so excellent as ever. So informative, so detailed. मतलब मजा आ गया. And all the panelists were also very good. आपको तो सुन के हमेशा मजा आता.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Suman ma'am, welcome from our society. It was so good of you to get connected, and it was really a wonderful feeling connecting together. So a big welcome and thank you from our society, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
एक चीज पूछना है, एक चीज पूछनी है. हाँ.
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
हाँ, वो मेरा क्वेश्चन था फाइब्रोइड्स पे.
हाँ.
उसके बारे में, इनका फाइब्रोनॉम के बारे में इनका क्या कमेंट है? मेरा इसका खत्म हो गया था.
मैम फाइब्रोनॉम का in this case ma'am, Seema ma'am
not in this case. What is her experience about fibronorm?
Ma'am, Jaya ma'am, your comments on this molecule fibronorm.
Fibronorm में क्या है?
Ma'am, I think it's a combination of lots of things. It's not. It's more of a herbal combination, as far as I am aware.
And more of multivitamins and all that in it.
Yeah, yeah. It's more of a herbal combination. So I won't be able to tell you the exact combination of that.
नहीं तो हर्बल में भी वो होगा ना कुछ.
मैम आई एम सॉरी, मेरे को अभी याद नहीं आ रहा है क्या है उसमें, लेकिन वो कुछ कॉम्बिनेशन है. देयर आर हर्बल थिंग्स इन दैट, बट उसका एक्टिव इंग्रेडिएंट क्या है अभी इट्स नॉट समथिंग दैट इज वेरी फेमिलियर. आई हैव टू तो मैम सीमा मैम, डू यू हैव एनी आइडिया? आप बता दीजिए मैम.
मुझे याद नहीं है कि इसमें क्या क्या है.
फाइब्रोनॉर्म में इन्होंने डाला हुआ है ग्रीन टी पाउडर और विटामिन D3.
They have been promoted for some.
There is some Ayurveda which is called Triptychum the root of this plant.
It's a root
So
extract. That is what
herbal.
Yeah. So that is why I have no idea about its active compound, ma'am.
I am also not able to comment on this, ma'am, because these type of things, are they promoting this for the fibroids and endometriosis or endometriosis?
No, they are promoting it for fibroid, and in this particular case, I gave it particularly because even in Nanita's prescriptions, it was not sure whether it is fibroid or
ovarian.
But thinking that she did a cesarean and she could feel the fibroid, so I thought it should be a fibroid, not a. So I was a little hesitant to give the other drug. So this was, कम से कम ये लगा कि ये कम से कम नुकसान तो नहीं करेगी. I gave it only for that purpose, and she was on Trenlock, everything. She was not responding, and to my surprise, she responded the second, third day.
So it is like mainly it is having vitamin D and some green tea powder. It is written if it is from Acumentis only.
Yes.
Madam, I don't think it's from Acumentis.
And this
No,
is
it's from Acumentis.
No, Acumentis से नहीं है ये दूसरा. This is a.
No, it's not from
It is from Acumentis.
It is from Acumentis.
Yes. नहीं उसमें भी फाइब्रोनॉर्म की बहुत सारी मेडिसिन दिख रही हैं मुझे गूगल पर.
Acumentis वाला है मैम जो यूज करा.
अच्छा. नहीं एक फाइब्रोनॉर्म दिख रहा है जिसमें ट्रिप्टेडजेरियम, विल्फ्रोडेल, ग्रीन टी एंड विटामिन D3. तो इट इज ऑलमोस्ट सेम कॉम्बिनेशन.
सर फाइब्रोनॉर्म और फाइब्रोइस मैम एक्यूमेंटिस का ही है.
तो खुशबू तुम बता दो फाइब्रोनॉर्म में क्या क्या है तो डिस्कस हो जाएगा.
We don't know about these drugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
So
That means you are not using this drug.
I have never used such drug in the literature. I have not read about this drug, so I am unable to comment on this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
Rita, ma'am.
Can I? Any more questions? Anyone who would like to discuss anything else? Okay, then I'll just take 2 minutes, ma'am, before we close. We have members of our Dehradun Society also, Jaya ma'am also. I'll be sending you the link.
Dr. Rita Dhawan, another very senior person. उन्होंने अपना.
Yes, Dr. Rita Dhawan ma'am, I can see you now. Welcome, and it's a pleasure having you here. Ma'am, just would you please unmute yourself? We would like to have a comment from you also. Rita Dhawan ma'am?
उनका गया.
नहीं, here. Ma'am, unmute कर लीजिए please. Yes. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome. Welcome. It's a pleasure having you here.
It was a lovely presentation, Dr. Jaya, and all the panelists. You know, I enjoyed thoroughly, and it so much to my knowledge. You know, it was lovely, excellent. It was. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, it was a pleasure having you. Ma'am, I will take this opportunity of telling you all that we are on this Sunday, 4th of October from 10:30 to 12:30. We are doing an online Garbh Sanskar seminar in which there'll be a talk by a specialist on the how a pregnant woman should the activities and the diet and everything that she should do for her during her pregnancy. And after that, we are going to have an informative session for all the antenatal patients, in which we are a group of a panelists are going to give some information. So this is going to be a Zoom meet. It's also live FB meet also. So ma'am, I'll send the link to Jaya ma'am. Ma'am, it will be a request to you.
Hello.
Can you just forward it to the society? And when on 10:30 Sunday, it's a request to everyone कि आप अपने Facebook में उसको Facebook live कर दीजिएगा, just share करके. Everyone can keep joining in that. So this is a informative program for all the antenatal patients and anyone who is planning for pregnancy. So it's something that it has to be a conscious way of planning your pregnancy. That is what I can say about this Garbh Sanskar seminar. So ma'am, I will take this opportunity of inviting all my colleagues. I'll send the link. Please forward it to as number of your patients as possible. It will be a pleasure to have them all on that day, ma'am.
Yeah, definitely.
आप पर्चा भेज दीजिए, मैं मनीष से बात कर लूंगी.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, I'll send it to you, Rita ma'am, and please forward it in all your groups and societies. Nanita, can you please give the vote of thanks?
Vote of thanks, Neelam ma'am. आप दीजिए vote of thanks.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, a lot. Your ever smiling face always promotes us to study more and more. And we always like you to be back with us, even if it's online or it's offline. Wishing you a very healthy and prosperous year ahead.
Thank you so much. And I will look forward to connect with you all many, many times. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A big thank you from our society, ma'am, once again. A big thank you to all our panelists, Dr. Neelam, Dr. Renu, Dr. Aishwarya. Dr. Aishwarya, your slides and cases were excellent. Your inputs were very nice. Thank you to all Dehradun Society and Uttarakhand Society members who have joined us. Thank you to all my Saharanpur Society members for making this meet so successfully. Last but not the least, thank you to the entire Acumentis team for making this such an informative and interactive session.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Bye. Namaste, ma'am.